and arranged a 30-year peace with her.
According to Psellos, Maniakes was 3 meters tall. Holy. His problem was that he was violent, cruel, arrogant, and he was extremely rude to everyone, even the Varangians.
The patrician George Maniakes had been transferred from Edessa, and Lepandrinos appointed to govern there. The Arabs living in Mesopotamia made a pact with each other, advanced on Edessa, and besieged it. It would have fallen too if Constantine, the emperor's brother, had not sent the necessary help from Antioch and delivered it from a hopeless situation. Degree to reward him for this deed, the emperor promoted him domestic of the Scolae for the East. The eunuch Anthony Patches was appointed bishop of Nicomedia. He was a relative of the emperor and had no quality befitting a bishop, but he knew well when to keep his mouth shut. Broke down trees and shattered the roof tiles of the city. The city was in the grip of famine, so John purchased 100,000 bushels of grain in the Peloponnese and in Hellas. With this the citizens were relieved. In Sicily, as we said, 2 brothers were contending with each other, and when Apollafar got the better of it, the other brother summoned Almer, ruler of Africa, to his aid. Almer promised to fight with him if he might receive some possession on the island. The Sicilian readily agreed to this. He arrived and engaged Apollafar, whom he thoroughly routed, because the force which had been sent with the patrician George Maniakes to fight with Apollafar was delayed. Apollafar fled to the governor of Longobardia, Leo Opas, asking for aid. Leo gathered up what forces were at his disposition and crossed into Sicily where, as a result of several successful encounters with the African commander, he was able to interrupt the foe's ruthless advance. But then, when he heard that the brothers had made peace with each other and were about to make a united attack on the Romans, he crossed back into Italy, taking with him in his ships about 15,000 Roman prisoners who landed safely in Italy and then dispersed to their homes. The Carthaginian was now free to stay in Sicily and to pillage it at his convenience. That is how things were in Sicily. George Maniakes reached Sicily, then the 2 brothers who ruled there made peace with each other and turned their attention to chasing him off the island. They summoned 5 sand allies from Africa, and when they arrived there was a fierce battle at Remida, in which Maniakes most certainly put the Carthaginians to flight. There was so much killing that the river which flowed by overflowed with blood. He proceeded to take 13 Sicilian towns and then, little by little, to conquer the whole island. As for Sicily, the Carthaginian had picked himself up again, Assam, led a force much larger than the former one, and come to Sicily intending to chase Maniakes out of there. He encamped on an inclined plain called Draginae, and there he waited for battle to commence. When Maniakes learned of this, he mobilized the forces under his command and went out to meet him, first directing the emperor's brother-in-law Stephen, who, as we said, was in charge of the fleet, to secure the coast, thus ensuring that, when battle was joined, the defeated Carthaginian could not run off unnoticed and return home. The fray commenced, and the foe was severely routed. A multitude of Africans fell while their chieftain fled out of danger, came to the shore, boarded a rapid yacht, and got away to his home land. Maniakes was furious when he learned of this. When Stephen came to meet with him, he assailed him with excessive abuse and, raising his whip, dealt him several blows on the head. He called him a lazy, cowardly fellow who had betrayed the emperor's interests. Stephen did not take lightly to being dragged in the mud and insulted. Without delay, he sent a letter to the orphan Atrophos advising him that Maniakes was hatching an uprising against the emperor. Maniakes was immediately brought to the capital under arrest and imprisoned, together with the patrician Basil Theodorikanos. The entire command was transferred to Stephen, and a eunuch was sent out to join him, the Prepositos Basil Pedidiates. In due course, these two ruined the whole situation and lost Sicily by greed, cowardice, and carelessness. As Maniakes took the towns of the island, he constructed citadels in them, stationing an adequate garrison in each one. This was to prevent the local people from retaking the cities by assault. But now that he was a prisoner, carried off to Byzantium, the local people took advantage of the timidity and laziness of the commanding officers. They allied themselves with some Carthaginians and attacked the cities. Raising the citadels once they had defeated the defending forces, they repossessed all the cities with the exception of Messina. Here it was the Protospitherios Katakalin Kekaminos, officer commanding the unit of the Armeniakon theme, who was in charge of security. He had 300 cavalry and 500 infantrymen with him. In their haste to leave no ember of Roman power smoldering on the island, the local people had pressed everyone capable of bearing arms into service. With these and a significant allied force of Carthaginians, they marched on Messina and invested the city. Katakalin closed the gates and let nobody set foot beyond the moat for 3 days, thus giving the appearance of Tim Ididi. The Saracens were filled with disdain. They dispersed, fearing Naph, and disported themselves with drinking, with flutes and cymbals, by night and by day, as though they were going to capture the city next morn. Katakalin noted the nonchalance and inattention of the Saracens, and that they were acting incautiously, not paying the slightest attention to those inside the walls. On the 4th day, it was the Wednesday on which we are accustomed to celebrate mid-Pentecost, he rallied his own troops, ordered the priests to celebrate the unbloody sacrifice, partook of the Diane mysteries with them all, and, at the hour of the main meal, flung open the city gates. He charged out against a drunken and hung-over enemy, himself in the lead with his men, riding full tilt for the tent of Apollophar, the island chieftain, whom he slew on the spot, staggering with drunk Innis, and his tent was ripped apart. The rest of the Saracens were fall. They tripped over the heap of the fallen in their drunkenness. They were utterly incapable of offering any resistance on account of the unexpected nature of the assault, and the entire army was put to flight. The Saracens died, treading each other underfoot and killing their own. The whole plain, the nearer ravines and the rivers were filled with corpses, so that out of so many tens of thousands, only a very few reached safety in Palermo. The entire encampment was captured. It was full of gold, silver, pearls, and precious stones, which the soldiers measured out in bushels. So it was that the whole of Sicily, recently vanquished by Maniakes, was shortly repossessed by the Saracens, thanks to the nonchalance and ineptitude of the commanders. Only Messina was retained, in the manner we described Stephen, and Pediates fled into Longobardia. That is how things were in Sicily.